Got it.
Is it recording?
Yep, I got it. I hit yes.
All right, very good. Stefan here, Iron Direct Primary Care. We have Ciara on my channel now for she's going to tell us a little bit about what she's doing with Run Thrive Survive, incorporating psychology and exercise for her clients.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of the most important things, right? Where you not only get your physical body in shape, but you also get your mental mind in shape. And it's funny. I think as professionals, we will see a lot of people go one way or the other. They overdo working out or they ignore working out and they're just trying to focus on their, I guess, quote unquote, self-care. So I try to incorporate both of those where we find the balance, we find what really needs to be worked on, because sometimes it's not that you're not motivated. You just have to learn how to manage your emotions and your thoughts. And then once you get that under control, everything else seems to fall in line.
This is very unique. So you did a background in some sort of psychology training in school?
Yeah, it's behavior analysis. So instead, it's a subset of psychology. A lot of us don't like to say we're psychologists. We're not in that field, but at the same time, it plays a role. Like, you have to understand human behavior to even understand psychology, but we really focus on human behavior. And a lot of times we'll say trauma, low lack of self-confidence, things like that show up in your behaviors. And we focus on, okay, this is what you're doing. Why are you doing that? What can we change to get you to do something else? I almost like to call it like mind hacking, because it's not about your childhood traumas and were you bullied as a child? What can we do to get those feelings to be gone? It's focusing on the behaviors now that are going to help you in the long run, get to, like I like to say, to create the life you want to live.
Okay. There's a lot of trauma out there.
Yeah.
Women especially, I see it all the time. Emotional trauma, physical trauma.
There's so many types of trauma. If we're talking about trauma, we can go into acute, chronic, we can go into different types of bullying. It could be sexual harassment, sexual assault, events, if they were around terrorist attacks, if they were around attacks, car accidents. There's so many types of trauma out there.
Yeah. And so do you see this? So explain to me the link to the running community. How's the Run Thrive Survive running community? How is this? Explain this to me.
Well, I find it really interesting. And the running community, especially, and I'm going to say with the longer distances, I work with a lot of people that are in the longer distances, or I'm on the opposite side too, that like don't work out at all. So those are like my two clientele. But the runners, it seems a lot of us that are running longer distances, especially when we get into the ultra marathons. And I have had conversations with multiple people and they've come back and said, oh my God, you're so right. When you talk to ultra marathoners, if you can dive deep into their past, there has been some very traumatic experience. Now, there's a whole lot to be said that some people will take traumatic experiences and do different things. But in this community, especially, a lot of people will use their traumatic experience almost as motivation, or they're using running as an avoidant technique, which is one of the functions that I focus on. There's 5 functions. There's, you do things for attention, you do things to get something, you do things to feel good, you do things to avoid, or you do things for like life, for the long run. And the running community seems to be very avoidant, which is taught by society. So I know, for instance, there's several people that have had multiple very traumatic childhoods, and they are now ultra runners. And when you talk to them, they're very specific. They'll say, nothing, it's not that painful, you can push through it. A lot of this, again, going back to, we're not psychologists, but going into psychology, it's kind of pushing down those feelings, that trauma, that feeling of hurt, because there's nothing worse than mental hurt that you can't get rid of. But pain and running, you're inflicting on yourself and you can get rid of it later. So it's really interesting in the running community. I find it a very avoidant behavior with them in the running community, but some of them do it for other things.
Well, yeah. Also, when you do these long distance runnings, you're hitting that endorphin, that molecule that helps with anxiety. That when you give that back, so that you think that's a contributing factor to why they're achieving that long distance.
Absolutely. And I feel like along with the trauma, a lot of the trauma, when you're in that state of depression, when you're in this very low state from something that's happened in the past, and you find something like long distance running. I've had another conversation with somebody that are in extreme sports, like the skydiving, the bungee jumping, things like that, where you can get that adrenaline rush, that good feeling. It becomes addicting for these people that were on the other spectrum of not feeling anything at all, numbing themselves out, using all these other avoidant techniques.
Wow. Yeah, so that's interesting. I'll use this little medicine called low dose naltrexone, LDN, because what it does is it enhances endorphin release. So patients with anxiety will often feel good. The other thing it does, that endorphin release, it helps with chronic pain. Okay. So the LDN will help with the chronic pain. So the endorphin molecule is very interesting in how we both use it. You know, the runners, me with the low dose naltrexone. Endorphin's a fantastic little molecule.
Yeah, no, and it's very powerful. A lot of people, I mean, that's what we search for. Even thinking drugs, right? You get that high, you get those certain levels of something just getting you ready to do something where you feel good, and if your body's not doing it correctly on its own.
Yeah. So you have a program that's online. It sounds like an online community of your clients that are both, you're giving them programs, resistance training programs, and then you're also doing some sort of counseling as well.
Right. So like my theory is you can't be physically in shape, or you can't be at your best health if you're not both mentally and physically in shape. And a lot of people will say they're physically fit, they're ready to go, but some of them are at the lowest point of their lives, but they're still running, they're still training, they're still showing up at the gym, but they can't figure out why that's not working, right? Or there's on the opposite spectrum where people are like, I've tried the gym 200 times, I'm not trying this again. They might be severely overweight, they might be super unhappy, not feeling good, no energy and no motivation. And they're just like, I can't do this. Like, it's not for me. Well, those people, I usually find it's more of a, let's try to realign what's going on with the behaviors you're doing right now, with what's going on with you mentally, like what got you to this point and what can we change to get you out of there? Because there's always something you can change, whether it's your environment, the way you handle thoughts and the way you manage thoughts. I will never tell somebody that what they think is not right. A lot of other therapies will say, oh, well, tell yourself that's a lie. You're lying to yourself. That's not. This is people's reality. We just have to figure out how to manage it. And so once they do that, it's usually they get motivated. They find confidence. They find confidence that they can control their mind. And you'll watch them. You'll see them want to work out. You'll see them want to do more. You'll see them want to get higher jobs, progress in their career. And it's really a cool thing once you align yourself mentally. Now, on the other spectrum, when people are focusing so much on the gym, sometimes they're overworking themselves. They're burning out quickly. Their job is suffering. They might be more in the eating disorder. They might have problems there. But in that itself, you also have to find a way to kind of pull them back and realign themselves mentally. Maybe they're not working with their goals and values correctly. Maybe nobody's even helped them with their goals and values. There's a lot to be said with both sides.
Cool. So how can people enroll with your program?
Yeah, so I use circle.so, and it's an online community where I'm able to interact with you. You're able to post things. I post daily workouts. I post all the information that you need as strategies to help you mentally, little tidbits every day, just like information at your fingertips. And you can find me at circle.so. I can also send you the link if you want to link it in here. I think it's easiest that way. It's hard to search circle.so, but it's called RTS, the community.
Okay, cool. And so do they sit down with sessions with you, counseling sessions at all?
Yeah. So on Circle, there's a couple different options. If you just want to be part of the community, get the live group meetings, which I call that like kind of the group therapy. We talk to each other. We allow each other to help figure problems out, because you never know. Like, I don't have all the answers, but somebody else might. And then all the information and all the content itself, you can use that, or you can go a little higher, and we can do one-on-one sessions every single week. And that's when Circle SO actually comes with that meeting membership.
All right, cool. And do you work with a lot of endurance runners and these marathon?
Yeah, I work with a lot of endurance runners, and I like to call them my anxious overachievers, the ones that find them, right? The ones that are very high strung, type A personality, perfectionists, that if something slips, their whole world crumbles. Because I've been like that, and it's hard to get around, and it's definitely something that I work a lot with and see a lot of. It's very common.
Anxious overachievers.
Right? I even have it in the Circle SO program, my anxious overachievers corner. And that's where we really focus on things that help reduce burnout, things that help you check in, like coping mechanisms, like what's going on, like are you upset, like the black and white mentality, things like that.
This is so needed.
Right? I wish I had this.
Wow. Cool. I'll definitely put the link there. All right, great. I think we covered a lot of items here. Anything else?
I mean, other than I want everybody to know it's one of those things where if you're not feeling okay, sometimes it's not, we as society, we blame so many different things, right? Where we're like, oh, just push your feelings down, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. I'm not a huge fan of self-care, a self-care regimen. I don't think it's portrayed correctly. I think self-care is getting into the nitty-gritty of, are you okay? If you're not, we got to fix this. It's not bubble baths and lavender scented candles. That's not how it works. But society thinks that's all you need. And I think that's where we're going wrong with society.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it there. There's a lot of self-care stuff on social media. It's pretty toxic.
Right. And it's just like the 1,200 calorie diet and being perfect in the mornings. And people who have kids can't do these like 3-hour morning routines and meditations. Like it's just not plausible.
True. All right, cool. I think we'll hit the stop recording button here.